Alright, and this, of course, is another first review. This was the first review back after not a hiatus, but just a time where I was waiting for all the new equipment to come in. This, of course, was a return to the regularly scheduled GeneralLotz reviews. After Tomb Raider, I would get, maybe 10 or 12 reviews done, and then I would stop for another almost 6 months period of time, and then I'd come back infrequently. But now this one, Resident Evil, would be the one that would ensure that I'd stay on the channel permanently. This, of course, is the new intro done by Proctor Productions. This is a little Lego intro. He just sent me an email saying, hey, I'd like to make an intro for you. What would you like? This intro actually went through a number of different iterations until we got to that one. Originally, it had a Star Wars segment instead of a Doom segment. Also, that little Resident Evil bit, I really was on the fence about either adding it or not adding it. Mainly because I felt like it was extraneous, but I kind of wanted something to lead from the epic intro into the video footage here. The video footage here, of course, looks a lot better than Tomb Raider's does. It's still not perfect. I still don't have the camera centered quite like I'd like. The lighting is, of course, a lot better, but still not quite as good. Oh, man, that's an old one. Resident Evil novel review. The lighting in that looks really damn good for some reason. And also, I'm really, really young in that. 2010. Man, my hair was really short in that for some reason. We still got the punching bag, but it's been moved to a different part of the garage. But yeah, the lighting looks a lot better, but I still didn't have the lighting set up quite what I'd like it to be. Also, there's going to be a problem for literally every review after this one, is that you can still see stuff in the posters. You can see it reflected. Cannot fix that yet. So why no glasses? That's a question that I get a lot. Why did I not wear the glasses? That was one of those things where I wanted to try something new. For the longest time, I just wore glasses in every review. And I thought, you know what, we'll make some reviews without glasses and see. Now, this footage here actually comes from a Let's Play that I took down, and sadly I lost most of the gameplay footage for. It's where I played the character Dick Riddick as I went through a modded form of Dark Souls. I took the Let's Play down in a fit of pique, just because I didn't like it as much as I could. I still have 1 or 2 episodes that were not... The episodes were on an external hard drive that died. But there were a few episodes on a different hard drive that didn't die, and so I used some of that footage in that. It'd be nice. I might do some more Dark Souls stuff, and on the Let's Play channel there is a partial Dark Souls playthrough. But then what ended up happening is I had to reinstall Windows on my computer, and so I lost the save for that, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, I wanted to try something new with not having glasses. I will admit, I look better with glasses in some instances, or at least on camera I look better with glasses. So I brought those back when I got a new pair of glasses. Of course, we got Resident Evil here, ladies and gentlemen. This, of course, is the director's cut. Now, the first Resident Evil, or first version of Resident Evil 1 that I would play the most of would be Resident Evil DS. And, of course, here is Sweet Home. Now, some fans didn't even know Sweet Home existed. I knew Sweet Home existed, and I knew that it was an inspiration for Resident Evil because of the a Happy Video Game Nerd. He did a video on Sweet Home talking about how it was an inspiration to Resident Evil. And so remembering that when I went to do the Resident Evil review and talking about the elements that led up to Resident Evil being created, I looked up Sweet Home and read more about it, and I played it a little bit. And then, of course, I got some more footage from other games that would inspire Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a very fun game, and it's one that I didn't appreciate when I first played it. Although, you know what's funny? It's a game I've talked about for years, so you would think I'd like it. It's one of those pseudo-hate period games where it's like, oh, this game is complete crap, but I still like it enough to talk about it and want to play it. So make of that what you will. I never said I was consistent. Now, what you'll notice is I've tried to get my old editing skills back up, where I'll actually have different scenes lead into other scenes in a fancy way. So, like, when we transition from certain scenes, we'll have the little doors open. I thought that was pretty neat how I was able to get that to work. It's these little elements that you don't really pay attention when you're watching the video, but that the video or content creator will spend a lot of time and effort agonizing over, will this look good, will that look good? And it's not an easy thing to get these to be edited as well as they are. Now, this, of course, is the EPSXE well, it's not the version of the game, but I'm using EPSXE to record the game, and that's a lot easier than trying to record off a PS1. And the EPSXE just makes the games look so much better with anti-aliasing and all sorts of things like that. And it's much easier for me to record with Fraps as well. Now, of course, here we've got Alone in the Dark. Now, I have not ever finished Alone in the Dark. I just couldn't really stay into that. Now, I've played Alone in the Dark primarily on the PS1 using EPSXE. And Alone in the Dark isn't bad, it's just, it is very slow and kind of sluggish at times. But just look at that background. It's a night and day difference. Now, of course, it's kind of funny is you look at the background. I think I must have moved the camera. I must have moved the camera a little bit because the camera is even less centered than it was. Ugh. It's a hard thing to do to get that centered. Now, this is also the first video I did with the new condenser mic, actually. And the new condenser mic makes the sound so much better. Although, every time I get a new microphone, I wonder, does it actually sound that much better than the one I replaced? Because I'm always afraid it's not going to sound as good. So I was like, did that sound that much better, or should I just use the original onboard mic? It's a good thing I didn't change back to the onboard mic. That's actually happened throughout the history of the channel, where I would actually get a new microphone and just feel like it wasn't that much better. Most notably, changing from... Now, there's very few videos left on the channel that still use it, but some very early videos on the channel actually have me use a Rock Band microphone. And then I changed that to a Logitech headset mic, which still wasn't very good, but at least sounded a little better. And I was like, well, does the Rock Band microphone sound better? I don't know. Once again, here's some fancy editing where I show this entire Plant 47 puzzle as I solve it. I thought that was kind of slick there. Not that anyone would notice. But one of the things about Resident Evil, though, is it is one of those games that it does feel like it creates a whole other world to get lost in. PS1 games were very big back in the day, and they lasted you a long time. Now, whether or not it was a cynical thing of ensuring that you bought the game instead of just renting it, I don't know. But I don't mind that, because if you're going to spend, $50, $60 on a game, you want a lot of content from it. You want that bloody game to last more than 5 hours, And these days, games are very short in comparison. It's funny, the games today are shorter, but that price hasn't come down at all. It's like Halo 5, I think, had something like a 5-hour campaign. Well, it's Halo 5. How much more do you want? It's like, oh, really? Just, can we have a little more content, please, modern-day game developers? Now, one thing that's kind of interesting, and I think I mentioned it in the video, but Resident Evil 7, as of this recording, has been out for some time. Hair's getting messed up already. But Resident Evil... And also, look at that. The camera's now moved again. Now you don't see that big hole in the wall. Why was there a big hole in the wall? That's long since been patched, actually. But there's a big hole in the wall because originally I was just going to have one poster in the background. And I put it up there, and I thought, this doesn't look very good. There's only one poster. There's so much empty space on either side of that poster, and so ultimately it was determined that two posters would look a lot better than just the one. But let's see, look at that, hair's messed up again. That's the problem, though, because you go through, there's a lot of video segments in this review, so you're moving around, the hair invariably will get messed up, and that's not as bad as it's gotten in the past, though. I've had a lot worse hair in some reviews. Now everybody's going to look at how bad the hair looks. But it's funny how nobody really mentions that in a comment, because I think nobody really pays attention to what kind of hair does GeneralLotz have today. Now, this video also started a trend I would keep up with for a little while, where I would alternate the shirts. For this video, since it's a survival horror game, I have a survival horror shirt on, a Dead Space 3 shirt. Now, say what you will about Dead Space 3 not really being survival horror, but that's the closest thing to survival horror that I had. I even thought about, since this was the first big review back, where I was going to permanently be back, I thought about going out and buying a Resident Evil shirt, but I wasn't going to pay $20 for one review. So, ultimately, we just got Isaac and his Clark there. And Dead Space 3 is still a decent game. I have a review of that up on the channel. But is it survival horror? Well, it's survival horror-ish. and it's close enough. You can't even see that that's a Dead Space 3 shirt. It's just fucking Isaac Clarke staring at you from my chest. Also in this review, I've finally been able to get back into the shape that I was initially. The camera is now much closer in as well, and it only shows. Actually no, I take that lie back. When we looked at Tomb Raider, even though the camera was further out, it showed less of me than this does. So I finally got it to where you can see most of me during the video segments, and it actually doesn't look like complete crap. Which, once again, is not an easy prospect. Now, when this was made, I wasn't trying to rediscover how to make reviews. It was instead me just trying to make sure it was make sure that it was of the highest quality possible. And I think Resident Evil was one of the first really good reviews in a long time when it was released. It had the good lighting, it had really good gameplay footage, I think. Now, of course, it still showed me getting hurt all the time, but, well, that's to be expected. It had good gameplay footage, it had good edits. I feel like the edits were really good in this. And ultimately, just the script itself, I think, turned out really good. The script itself, I think, was something like 8 pages long. It took several days to do, and I really just put in a tremendous amount of effort to make this the absolute best I could possibly do. Now, the gameplay footage for this actually comes from a Let's Play that I did up on the Let's Play channel. I have not yet finished Resident Evil for that particular channel, just because I felt like, I think we had something like 10 or 12 episodes, 10 or 12 like long, 30-minute or so long episodes, and I just kind of got tired of doing that one game for it. I think we'll eventually go back to Resident Evil on the Let's Play channel at some point, though, because I really do like that game a great deal. It's funny, though, just how long I didn't like it. It's like, oh, it's too difficult. I covered this in the review here, but it really is a much more obtuse game. It's a thinking man's game. You can't just go around and shoot things. And I think I interrupted myself when I was talking about Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 is first person, and Resident Evil 1 was conceived as being a first person game, and had it not been, I can't remember the guy who did Resident Evil 1 right now. I say it in the review. It's Shinji Mikami. Had he not seen Alone in the Dark, at least according to my research, it would have been a first person game. So that's just kind of interesting that now we've kind of come back to what Resident Evil was initially supposed to be. And Resident Evil 7 is a really good game, although I find it extraordinarily creepy. I don't know how scary it is, but damn is it creepy. Like, I'm not easily creeped out, but man, that, the family is a very creepy thing there. And they actually try to feed you like some dead flesh. It's like, I don't know about this. What happened to the zombies? I just want, to shoot a zombie with a shotgun, not see that. But no, Resident Evil 7 is a good game, well worth playing. It's definitely very different from this game, to be certain, but I think by this point they needed to do something about getting a slightly newer continuity. Although, it's one of those instances, though, is Resident Evil 7 really a Resident Evil game? Because it is so different from the games that came before it. Now, obviously, you'd want to call it Resident Evil 7 just because, you have all that history, and Resident Evil is a very marketable name. So if you just called it, Texas Chainsaw-inspired game, it probably wouldn't work all that well. But hey, you got to do what you got to do to make that money. To make that money, man! But there's a lot of games and a lot of movies that if they just used a different name, it would actually, in my opinion, work a little bit better. It's like RoboCop. It has nothing to do with the original RoboCop, and if they just called it Cyborg Man, I'd actually be a lot happier with it. Or, there's a number of video games. Half-Life 2, in some respects, I know this will make somebody pissed off, but Half-Life 2, when I finally get to that review, I'm going to mention this. It doesn't necessarily feel that much like a Half-Life game, just because it takes place in such a different setting than Half-Life 1 does, and it just doesn't feel like Half-Life 1 did most of the time. Really, if they called Half-Life 2 City 17 and had a different character, because it really could just be anybody other than Gordon Freeman. If it was just some sort of transferee from another city, it would have worked a little bit better. Really, though, following in Half-Life 1's footsteps is not an easy prospect, that's for sure. And when you look at the development of Half-Life 2, just all the things that went into that, the fact that they got hacked and they wanted to change the game. Oh, look at Jill just fucking kicking that guy's head off. And the fact that they wanted to change it up after they got hacked and some of it got leaked. That probably had a lot to do with it. Still, though, Half-Life 2 is a pretty good game, in my opinion. The thing is, like, with Half-Life 2, it just doesn't feel quite as good as Half-Life 1. I'm a big fan of Half-Life 1. I'm a really big fan, actually. Oh, there's the FMVs. Now, the FMVs would change between the Western releases and the Japanese release. The Japanese release, I think, was mostly uncensored, where it had, like, Chris smoking. Oh, no! He can't smoke! Somebody might start smoking because of Chris Redfield. It's like, really? Why do they always think that kids are going to imitate everything that they see? It's like, well, I'm going to dress up as Barry Burton and go to a random mansion and fight demons. It's like, really? Also, I find it funny. I play a lot of games where you shoot demons. It's like, well, according to that one character, there are terrible demons in the Resident Evil mansion. Just can't get away from the bloody things, it seems. Well, Jill's getting bit a lot. I hate it when zombies do that. When you blow their heads off, they can still attack you. That's an annoying glitch or bug in Resident Evil 4, where you can shoot blow their heads off, and they can still attack you and do damage. It's like, really? Come on! Come on! But doing a Let's Play on this game is actually a lot of fun, just because there's so much thinking involved. But at times, though, it can get a little difficult, because you'll run into the issue of you don't know where you're supposed to go. Ooh, there's a Game Boy version of Resident Evil. I actually found that on my own, I think. Therefore, I'm not entirely sure. I might have seen that on Happy Video Game Nerd, or I might not have. And, of course, there's the Resident Evil remake. That's a GameCube version. Look at that! Look at all that Resident Evil crap. That's not mine. That's just an image I got off of Google Image Search. But, man, you can tell they're a big fan of Resident Evil. And that's not a bad thing, because Resident Evil is a very, very fun game series. I have all the books. I would like to get a Jill Valentine statue, though, because I'm a big fan of Jill. I'd like to get a Jill Valentine statue at some point, and a Leon Kennedy statue, because I'm a fan of both of those characters. Because Leon Kennedy is a cool... Oh, that's what I'm saying. Is Resident Evil 7 going to be any good? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Well, you know what? It is. It's really funny when you do these videos. You're like, well, I don't know if this game's going to be any good. And it turns out to be good. Because that kind of came back to bite me on Doom 3, the Doom 3 review back in 2010. No, it's 2009. Man, that review is old. Where it's like, will Doom be any good? Well, it'll probably be like the Doom film. Complete crap. Well, as it would turn out, no, it's not. But we got lucky. We got lucky on that one. Because Doom 2016 could have been crap. We all saw that trailer where it was going to be modern Doom fare. I like the idea of it being set on Earth, because that's like Doom 2 Hell on Earth, but I bet you it would have had regenerative health, the 2-weapon rule, and it would basically just been Rage, but with Doom. I'm not a big fan of Rage, but eventually I'll review that at some point. But ultimately, I'm GeneralLotz, wishing you good, bloody, bloody, blah, bloody, bloody, blah, or whatever makes you happy.